But the 5th standard history book back in 1975, the first chapter used to be Ale, 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 Arya, Ale. So the so-called theory of Aryan invasion first and then skillfully modified to call as Aryan migration, the one that I described as Pade to bhi tang upar. That in Bharatiya lexicon, terminology, the word Dravida is an honorable word, mind you. In Arabic, Hindu means slave. For the first time after independence, we started telling the world that we are mother of democracy. So Baba Sahib Ambedkar has stated clearly that there is no such Aryan invasion, no question of migration. People known as Aryans are original inhabitants of India, Bharat. You people may have noted a very major change in NCERT history textbooks. That until this change is now brought in, the so-called theory of Aryan invasion, with some modification called Aryan migration, still continued. Okay? But now the NCERT books that are going to tell us about history of Bharat and India, no such, neither Aryan invasion nor Aryan migration. Whoever are the people known as Aryans are original inhabitants of India. That is what henceforth our history books will say. And that same change then also brings up another change that is also going to be introduced in NCERT books, that is the Harappa civilization, later on known as Indus Valley civilization, and then later on and correctly now known as the Sindhu Saraswati civilization. Okay? Now NCERT books are going to say that that may be same as the Vedic civilization. So I thought of spending a little time on these 2 points, because anything related to this can actually come up in your prelims paper. So first of all, until the British rulers got hold of India, there never is any concept whatsoever in any part of India, okay, that some people separately called Arya came from somewhere outside. No such idea. No such concept. Never. Until the British rulers established their grip and decided to follow their age-old, time-tested policy of divide and rule. Otherwise, in no part of India, mind you, no part of India, there ever is a concept that there were some people, different people called Aryans, and that they invaded us or defeated us. Otherwise, we are the original inhabitants, etc. No such idea. Never, mind you. Never. Not right up to current Assam. And you find reference in Vedas also. The river Brahmaputra and current present Guwahati is traditionally, historically known as Prag Jyotishpur. You have Pragjyotishpur in Mahabharata also. You find references to Manipur in Mahabharata. Arjuna married a Naga princess Ulupi. And also princess at Manipur, her name is Chitrangada. And similarly, you go deep south wherever you want to go. Okay, including Maharashtra and then Karnataka, Andhra, now Andhra, Telangana, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Deeper you look into that history, until the 19th century, there never is absolutely any concept whatsoever that there are some other people, some different people, okay, that they are northerners. They came from, there is not even this concept in the history of South India, mind you. This deliberate poison was planted by the British colonial rulers, British colonial and European colonial historians, and unfortunately for their own political agenda, the Marxist historians of history of India continued with the theory. Actually, in their original form, it's a racist theory. It is the Europeans in general and Britishers in particular who described Aryans as tall, fair complexioned, with wide forehead, golden hair and straight nose. And as against these Aryans who came from outside, they defeated the original people. They gave the name Dravidians to them, Britishers. The word Dravida does exist in Bharatiya philosophy. Okay, it indicates the South Indian peninsula. The word Dravida is a geographical word that it means this region, the South Indian peninsula. Okay, and also please remember that in Sanskrit or Prakrit literature, the term Dravida is an honorable word. Honorable word. So if there were this fictitious imaginary Arya versus Dravida struggle, okay, why would the word Dravida be an honorable word? I hope you get my point. If it is a relationship of victors and vanquished, you see the history of the world anywhere, and if some one people defeated the other people, then everything related to that other people gets a negative meaning, a pejorative meaning. Mind you, in Arabic, Hindu means slave. In Arabic language, Hindu means slave. And I could just go on with such many examples. Many of us unconsciously use the word vernacular to describe our languages. So if I speak in, say, Marathi, Hindi, or anything, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, etc., we say he is speaking in vernacular. He is writing in vernacular. This book is in vernacular. Okay? The literal meaning of the word vernacular is language of the slaves. The literal verna plus cular means language of the slaves. Okay? Britishers with their racial superiority complex created this word, imposed on us, and like colonial idiots, many of us still continue with the word without even understanding what it means. That Marathi is a language of slaves, that Tamil is a language of slaves, and that Hindi is a language of slaves, and we use the word vernacular. After the Britishers started ruling India, the term native also has a negative meaning, mind you. Native means backward. Native means dark-skinned. And the word is not only for India. After the 15th century, wherever white man went, he called local people as natives. That doesn't have the literal meaning that they are original inhabitants, so they are called natives. No, the term native is necessarily negative. And this could go on Only to point out that in Bharatiya lexicon, terminology, the word Dravida is an honorable word, mind you. Okay? A highly learned person, you will find addressed as Aho Dravida. In a very respectful manner, he is addressed as Aho Dravida. You will also find one of the all-time greats of cricket also addressed as this good Rahul will be called Dravida. So Dravida also is a surname and an honorable one. So if there were this imaginary Arya-Dravid struggle in which Aryans defeated Dravidians, pushed them down the order, this is how Sudras were created, as the Westerners would tell us. All false, all utterly false. They are false right from word go. Okay. So the so-called theory of Aryan invasion first and then skillfully modified to call as Aryan migration, the one that I described as Pade to bhi tang upar. Aryan invasion was never true. With ever increasing evidences, it became clear that there is no question of any such invasion and massacre of the local inhabitants, etc. Okay, then they just gave a different spin. Everyone from Romila Thapar down to all Marxist historians and started calling it migration. So Aryan migration. Again, migration also is false. To cut a long story short, again, throughout Vedas, first of all, in Indian terminology, the word Arya has no racial meaning. The Britishers gave it. Okay. When after they realized that actually it's not about race, okay, then they called it a language group. So much of falsehood, mind you. So much of utter falsehood. So they started calling it Indo-European group of languages. And then within Indo-European group of languages, there are different branches. So one branch is called the Indo-Iranian group of language. And that Pade to bhi tang uppar, the obstinacy in absence of any evidence that whoever are these people called Aryans. In Indian terminology, there is no separate people called Aryans. Hopefully in a minute and a half, I'm going to explain the Bharatiya meaning, the original Indian meaning of the term Arya. But they gave it a racial meaning first and then a linguistic meaning. And kept saying that no, people, there is this migration of Aryans. Now almost 300 years, but there is no evidence about any such original homeland of Aryans. Was it Central Asia? Was it Urals? Was it Caucasus? Was it the Northern Pole, as some people say Lokmanya Tilak said? They misunderstand what Lokmanya Tilak is saying. If we find time, I may explain that. But Lokmanya Tilak in his book, Orion, the Arctic home in Vedas, does talk about Northern Pole, etc. Okay? But they came from somewhere outside, migrated, etc., etc., and finally to enter into India. Hardly any evidence. Misrepresentation. The spin. Okay? Vedic people, throughout all Vedas, which are the original sources of evidence, describe themselves as original homeland of the land of 7 rivers. Sapta Sindhavaha. This is the term you will find throughout Vedas. Sapta Sindhava. Who are we? Sapta Sindhavaha. So people from land of 7 rivers. 7 will mean 5 which make Punjab. That their current names are Ravi, Chenab, Bias, Jhelum and Satluj. They have a very beautiful Vedic names. Every river has a beautiful Vedic name. And the big 2 are Sindhu and Saraswati. But with the European colonialist continued by Marxist interpretation of dividing India, of saying there is no India. I hope you are noticing the current expressions of that there is no India, that there was no India ever. Okay. So you have like Udaynidhi Stalin saying Sanatan is a virus which should be destroyed. And the sentences is glorified by some intellectuals in India. And then another cabinet minister, A.K. Raja, okay, He comes up and he says the Bharatiya civil, there is nothing like Bharat. Everyone is separate. He says principles of oneness are like one language, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't understand because he's brainwashed not to understand the beauty of India's unity, that in spite of this diversity, how are we one people? Not only that we are diverse, we welcome diversity. Not only that we welcome diversity, we respect diversity. That diversity is our strength because we understand that it's the diversity of outer manifestation. The inner content is one and the same. Whether you say Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam in Prakrut, or you say Sarvetra Sukhinas Santu in Sanskrit, or Jnaneshwar says Jo Je Vanchila Tote Laho, or Kabira says Kabira Khada Bajar Mein Mange Sabki Khair, and I can quote this in all Indian languages, the same prayer, Sarvetra Sukhinas Santu. May everybody be happy, everybody be blissful. The content is one and the same, only spoken in sort of different languages. So that is now being changed. So one part, the so-called theory of Aryan invasion / migration, and I have still been very brief really. I will still for a while say that it was never true. Absolutely, since the time European self-styled historians started propagating the theory of Aryan invasion at each such parallel time, there always has been a formidable intellectual response from India. Okay? But the colonial masters have used their political power to suppress those responses, mind you, all the time. And in post-independence time, Indian historiography means the science of writing history. In post-independence times, Indian historiography has come to be dominated by the Marxist historians of Indian history, so much so that we don't even know that there are other schools, other interpretations which are equally valid, etc. I hope none of you thinks we are wasting time when I also remind you that come G20, India's presidency, and the tagline we gave to that G20 is Mother of Democracy. For the first time after independence, we started telling the world that we are Mother of Democracy. And once we started saying so, the world has begun to take it seriously, mind you. Some intellectuals may still not. And it is not a figure of speech. Ancient India had best of democracy at grassroots level, direct democracy, also representative democracy, and ancient India had democratic republics, mind you. Ganarajya, the Bharatiya word even in ancient India is Ganarajya. And you find republics in Vedas, mind you, the oldest available source of Indian history. And that people actually sit together, men and women. So please remember that women also as equals with all equal rights, including all equal material rights of inheritance, etc. Clear evidences in Vedas. So people would sit together and decide who is to look after the matters of community. That is election. For want of time, I'll just mention 2 or 3 very important ones, mind you. If you are studying overall Bharatiya Sanskriti and within that everything about Buddha philosophy, if you are studying it in a shallow way, then normally you would think that Siddhartha Gautam Buddha is the father of Raja Shuddhodana, and his mother is Mahamaya or Maya Devi, who unfortunately died giving him birth at Lumbini Park, okay, etc. I'm calling this shallow. Because please remember that Raja Shuddhodana is not a hereditary king. He is a democratically elected king. People elect him. And it is the Shakya Kula. Shakya, people known as Shakya people. they would elect their king. So another name for Gautam Buddha also is Shakya Muni. Gautam Buddha is also called the Shakya Muni because it is the Shakya Kula clan. As to translations about which I have spoken today, the Bharatiya word Kula was translated by European translators as tribe. Think of the word tribe. Tribe gives a meaning of some backward, disorganized people following some superstitions, blah, blah, blah. Okay? That's not the idea behind Kula. So it is Shakya Kula, mind you. It is Bharata Kula. Okay? It is Raghu Kula. And it is Kuru, Panchala, Anu, Druyya, Turvasa. These are Kula, not tribes. These are groups of families together. So Shakya Kula. Point here is, it was democratic. When the Alexander the so-called Great, only the Western history calls him Alexander the Great. He did not touch even the fringe of India, mind you. Just the northwestern, some tip, some corner, where he was not even required to take on the major might of India. It were only some small kingdoms, okay? They were republics. The ones that fought with Alexander are Yaudheya and Malava Ganarajya. They are Ganarajya. But it is only now that we have started asserting and telling the world that we are mother of. I have been doing this since at least 1975, explaining to whoever I can with evidences and all. But at the global level and also at official governments level, almost for the first time we have started asserting this. Okay. For want of time, I am picking an example from another part of, another end of India. So if it is Shakya Kula or Yaudhe and Malava, now I am going to deep south and referring to the Chola polity. Chola, okay, had direct democracy at village level. The best form. The best form. Even king had no right to interfere in village affairs. And people would sit together and elect their members. In fact, may I say that that democracy is better than even modern democracy. Because it was not based on party. There would be no candidates. There would be no symbols. And there would be no candidates moving around saying, Tai mai akka majar mara chikka. Okay, the village would sit together and okay, decide that okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. 5 of you, Pancha, 5 of you will look after the village issues. Okay. So if someone said, no, not these 5, I want him also. So the 6th one. So someone says, no, I want her also, 7th one. Okay. Then there would be voting. And there would be a wooden container, beautifully carved container placed there. People would write it on a leaf. Then enroll it, roll it up and put it in that pot. And then it would be counted, something that is going to happen on 4th of June. Although we know what is going to happen on 4th of June. So the global media also has started shouting, bomb marne, bomb. There is no English word for bomb. Shouting is a very shallow word for it. So democracy and so on and so forth. As to the theory of Aryan invasion, mind you, like Vivekananda opposed it. All this about India, ancient India having democracy, okay? There is a beautiful, well-studied book written by K.P. Jaiswal, Kashi Prasad Jaiswal. And the title of that book is Hindu Polity. He gives the name Hindu Polity. We will check the year, but it is around or before 1920s. And actually the whole book was written in response to the British imperialist and racist argument that Indians are not capable of self-rule. That was the British argument even then, that Indians are not, we are required to look after you. In response to that, K.P. Jaiswal studied whole Indian heritage and told in this book, The Hindu Polity. Like hundreds or thousands of other books, this also is relegated to irrelevance. After, in post-independence time, with government backing, the Marxist historians of Indian history started dominating and started monopolizing the positions. Otherwise, it is there all the time. Okay. Again, for want of time, I am picking up the best example. Okay. It is none other than Baba Saheb Ambedkar himself. He has completely rejected the theory of Aryan invasion. He, along with many other Pandits also, then they have explained that for Bharatiya terminology, Arya is not a racist term. It is not also a linguist term. Arya means civilized. That's all. It's a Sanskrit word that means civilized or cultured people. Arya means civilized or cultured people. It has nothing to do with people being tall, blonde, with wide forehead and straight nose. Okay? Please remember that this is racist description. This is anthropological description. Until even anthropology was, and to a large extent anthropology even today continues with the theory of Aryan invasion and still continues to be racist. All false, all unscientific, proven to be so. Arya means culture. If ever you take even a cursory look at Vedas, okay, you will find the physical descriptions of rishis, rishis in Vedas. Many of them are dark-skinned, with small eyes, flat nose, and curly hair. The so-called description of whoever are these Dravidians as racist term. Again, wrong. Utterly wrong. There are many rishis. So it's not like Vedas composed by invading Aryans who defeated the original inhabitants who are Dravidians, and they were pushed deep south. This is present either general South India or Tamil Nadu in particular. Utter lies to divide India. And till this date, the poison has worked, mind you. The poison is still making India pay a price. And even till this date, even in current political context, the anti-India Western media will still persist with the theory that South India and North India are two different Indias. That South India and North India are two different. They don't understand the concept of diversity. They don't understand how beautifully India respects the diversity, because we understand that at the root it is all one. But they persist with this. Even today, mind you, the line is that BJP is a North Indian party, Narendra Modi is the leader of North Indians, and BJP is not able to make inroads in the South. Cover stories, as I talk to you, even now, because these are their plans to ensure that there are two separate Indias. No such thing. No such thing, mind you. Okay? So, Baba Saheb Ambedkar has stated clearly that there is no such Aryan invasion, no question of migration. People known as Aryans are original inhabitants of India, Bharat. And the idea of oneness of Bharat is there for thousands of years. Ambedkar's theory says that there is an internal power struggle. Those who lost the power were relegated to a lower position in society. They are Sudras. They came to be called Sudras. This is Ambedkar's book, originally written in English, the title of which is Who Were Sudras. Marathi translation also is available, Shudra Kon Hote. So it is one society, and you take a look at Vedas, the diversity is already there. And the respect for diversity also is already there. How I wish we had so much of time to go on explaining. But like I said, after this, that these two things, I still took time, and it was very brief still on one part, the upcoming change in NCERT books, no more neither Aryan invasion nor Aryan migration. How I really wish I had time to kind of go on talking about this. And every time I'm saying I'm forcing myself to just pick up one example. The Harappa civilization was discovered in 1923. First report is 1908. There was a task of laying down railway line going on in Sindh. And an intelligent engineer saw that the workers are going to some place and bringing some ready-made bricks there. So he said, where are you bringing them from? So the worker said, they are there. So he went and found it out. That is actually Mohenjo-Daro. Mohenjo-Daro is a Sindhi word. Its literal meaning is the hill of dead people. So for thousands of years, the idea continued that it is the hill of dead people. And that engineer, with his then modern historical consciousness, he thought there is something important here. So he informed the Archaeological Survey of India. And then the excavation was conducted. First report in 1908 is by Dayaram Sahani. But somehow it got neglected. Maybe you can say the First World War. But finally, Archaeological Survey of India undertook a sincere archaeological expedition. This was under Rakhal Das Banerjee. The year was 1923. And a whole well-planned town which went back to more than 2500 BC that came up. A well-planned town with drainage system, mind you, and proper plinths for houses. So this has to be a very advanced civilization. The favorite British pet theory was India was never a civilization. Forget advanced. And pet British and the theory continued by Marxist historians is it is all every time the invaders who brought culture to India. Okay, so India didn't know the language. Invading Aryans brought in the language. And India didn't know art of sewing. Greeks brought it. India had no coins, while coins are mentioned in Vedas, mind you, but they say Greeks brought it. And this just goes on and on and on. How the invaders enriched our civilization. We must be the only civilization in the world, especially only extant, still existing civilization, which is told that you have no original creative genius. It's all the time the invaders who enriched you, getting the mind ready for the next invasion. The next invasion being Chinese, whose ideology is ML, Marxism, Leninism, which is the same ideology of the historians who are writing history of India with government support so far and telling us that there is no original creative genius in Indian civilization. It's all the time the some outward people, some external people. So if you find a well-planned city as back as 2500 years, okay, then again the theory is this must have come from Mesopotamia. So India can never have anything original. My point here, the one that I'm still doing my level best to summarize, because in another 2-3 minutes we have to say our prarthana. Three skeletons were found at Mohenjo-Daro in that 1923 expedition. Three buried on a road. After excavation, it was clear that it was a road, but they were buried. Even with the advances of science then, as of 1923, even then it was clear that one is a male skeleton, the other is a female skeleton, and the third is a kid skeleton. Buried at Mohenjo-Daro on a road. Okay? The then Director General of ASI, Archaeological Survey of India, Sir Mortimer Wheeler, okay, immediately concluded that these are the people massacred by invading Aryans. So 1923 was considered discovery of Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro was considered as one more evidence of how invading Aryans destroyed the original civilization here. 3 skeletons buried. I'm saying it for the 4th time. Okay? And the conclusion is invading Aryans conducted massacres. With the advances of science, now it can be told why those 3 people died. Cause of death can be fixed. Science has progressed enough. Now the cause of death is death by asphyxiation. Shwas Gudmarla. Not killed, not massacred, no signs of what, koita or pursue or no weapon, nothing. 3 of them died by asphyxiation. So probably some earthquake. Why only 3 were found? Because probably either earthquake or the river Sindhu used to change its course. So it became unsustainable to live there. So people left eastwards in the Gangetic plains. These are the last ones who somehow delayed. Probably the wife was taking her own time to properly brush her hair and put on a lipstick. A sexist and anti-feminist statement. Point is, no such Aryan invasion, mind you, no massacres, no nothing. But immediately jump to the conclusion, and Romila Thappers of the world continue with this even today, mind you. What a lie, man. What a lie. Again, for want of time, the last thing I will, and still I have not been able to say so many things I wanted to say, but we are going to have one more session next Monday or Tuesday. After that, we won't have a session until just 3 weeks to exam. Then we will meet once again just to wrap up or interact or probably see each other's face. One last point, I am forcing myself to make one last point. Okay? Actually, it was very, very, very clear that the time frame of Vedas and the civilization known as either Harappa, then Sindhu, and then Sindhu Saraswati. Okay? Time frame is same. And geography also is same. So the only mathematical conclusion is Sindhu Saraswati civilization could be same as Vedic civilization. This I have been studying and teaching at least from December 1975. December 1975 is when I started teaching. Although for 5th and 6th standard first. But the 5th standard history book back in 1975, the first chapter used to be Ale, 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 Arya, Ale. What kind of history being told to us? Our own history. That whoever are we came from outside. The British cunning, actually only to justify their invasion, conquest and rule of India. That if we have come from outside, so have you. Who the hell are you? So have you. Okay? And then divide and rule, etc. That the Vedic civilization may be same as Sindhu Saraswati civilization. There always have been evidences to point at that. But it is now that NCERT textbooks are henceforth going to mention that. No wonder until not only I, there are many even better people who created the term breaking India forces. Breaking India forces. So they would call these changes as saffronization of history. They are worried about the change of logo of Doordarshan. So it is saffronization. They are okay with colonial continuation of the cross on our naval flag. Until the present government thinks of Shivaji Maharaj as the founder of our navy, and therefore his Ashtakoni Mudra now gloriously displayed on our naval flag. Saffronization. Pride for India, Indian civilization, all bloody described as saffronization. So if truth is saffronization, so be it. But it is historical truth. And if I had time, I would explain many more further details. But right now, I have to force myself to stop, and we will say our prarthana.